Let's begin with the ongoing situation in South Africa. As we speak, there are hundreds of illegal miners underground in a deep mine shaft at an abandoned gold mine in the country. There are reports there are up to 4,000 people there. These are some of the scenes earlier today. The government rejecting calls for them to be allowed to leave deep underneath the mine shaft because many of them have been prospecting for gold. There are reports that some of these people down there, historically, there have been many gangs, some of them armed, some of them reportedly with automatic weapons. So the police talk about a safety issue in going down there. They've stopped bringing food to the site. But volunteer rescue workers have been talking about how they're getting extremely weak without food. Some of them are eating toothpaste, drinking vinegar as well. I should say this is in the town of Stilfontein. Let's give you an idea of where it is. This is northwest province of South Africa, about 150 kilometres south of Johannesburg. Many of the miners' families have been gathered outside. Some of them still there. They've been speaking to reporters about their loved ones.
4 of my family members were trapped in shaft 10 and shaft 3. So far, only my partner has made it out. The 3 others are still underground. I have no idea if they're still alive or not, because we've heard of dead bodies being pulled out. We haven't had a chance to see or identify any of the bodies, but so far I remain hopeful and may get some sleep at night.
Some members of government have boys. How would they feel if their children were underground, dying of hunger? Would they be happy? Of course not.
OK, let's get some context on what's going on. Let's first bring in Mathapelo Diale from the Gauteng branch. She's a development leader looking at mining affected communities for the Blyvor branch secretary. Great to have you on the programme this evening. First of all, just give us an idea of, this is not something that's rare. I guess what's the problem is now the sheer number of people, but just explain just the context of what is happening right now, who could be down there and why the police are withholding food.
Good evening. Thank you to your listeners. Thanks to you for having us. The issue with Stilfontein is the government decided to have an operation that they called Valamkoti, where they started closing mine shafts and abandoned mine shafts without consulting the community. They then restricted as a mitigation process for them. They withheld food and water to the trapped miners underground for the past 3 months. It is only on Tuesday that the first 40 instant meals were sent down to the miners. And then subsequent to that, 5 miners were rescued by the community volunteers. The volunteers from the community decided to do this initiative after the government refused to partake in the process. The first 5 were rescued using a very delicate, dangerous system of a rope because the miners are trapped 2 meters. So the community then started rescuing the first 5. When the first 5 came on surface, they then indicated that the other miners underground want to come out, but they are unable to because they are dehydrated, some deceased, and they don't have the strength to come up using the system that is currently being used by the community.
Mathapelo, tell me about trying to get an idea of who is down there. In fact, while we're talking to you, I think flashed up on screen is Duncan Money as well from Johannesburg, a consultant, historian, researcher on money industry. Great to have you on the programme as well, joining us this evening, Duncan. I'm going to come to you in a moment. Just to ask Mathapelo, any idea of numbers down there? Have you had any conversations, Mathapelo? We'll go to you in a moment. I can see Duncan, I think the gallery have brought Duncan up. We'll be back to you in a moment. But Mathapelo, just idea of numbers down there. I mentioned some of the analysts saying that there are sometimes armed gangs down there. There are a lot of unemployed workers. People have lost their jobs previously. Tell me about what you know of what's going on today and who might be down there and how many.
The estimate of those that came out today, we rescued another 5. The 5 that were rescued, they looking at a number of 4,000 trapped miners. It's a variety of people who are down there. You find ex-miners. For instance, today we managed to, of the 5, 2 were elderly ex-miners, when 3 were miners. So it's a range of people. It's just unemployed ex-miners and young people who are just unemployed.
Mathapelo, stay with us because we saw briefly Duncan Money. Duncan's back with us. Great to have you on the programme as well, Duncan. Mathapelo explaining some of those that might be there. Just to zone out of this a bit, tell us how common this is, what's going on, and some of the context about these old mining towns and how it's become such an issue.
Well, look, South Africa's mining industry has basically collapsed over the last 30 years. There are dozens, perhaps hundreds of these large abandoned shafts which lead down into mining workings where there are still gold. So you have a situation at the moment, as has already been mentioned, where you have extremely high unemployment in South Africa and across the region. You have gold mines where there is still gold, and gold prices are at a record high, roughly about $80,000 per kilo of gold at the moment. All of this creates very strong incentives for people to go underground into these extremely dangerous and harsh conditions to look for gold.
And who's going down there? Are we talking about every man and his dog? Are we talking about armed groups? I heard some reports that those that find some gold, Duncan, you can have a situation where you've got armed gangs who have assault weapons and they're killing each other. What's your insight?
Well, so partly, yeah, many of the people are ex-miners. There are people who know the shafts and have mining skills. That's 30 years ago, the gold industry in South Africa employed about 500,000 people. Sorry, about half a million people. Now it's about 90,000. So you have tens, hundreds of thousands of people all across the region with mining skills, often without jobs, and what looks like an opportunity here. Some of this, as you say, is linked to criminal gangs, but that's also the case for a lot of economic activity in South Africa. Unfortunately, South Africa is a very dangerous society. It's not simply this informal mining, which is linked to violence.
Mathapelo, just listening to Duncan and this being fairly common, people who, these unemployed shutdown areas trying to make something to essentially have daily bread, but going about it the wrong way. Where do you see this going right now? If you have up to 4,000 people underneath a mine shaft, to which the government is saying that they cannot come out until they are arrested, you talk about 5 being essentially rescued by volunteers wanting to go in today. What are you reading into this about where this is heading?
Look, we had a press conference yesterday where the government committed that they will bring in experts. They will assist, take out these miners in a larger number. But looking at the ones that were rescued today, the process that government would take forever. We are not saying what they have done is correct, but we are saying let's preserve lives. Let them be brought on surface on time, because some of them coming out are saying there are already guys that are deceased underground, which is a concern. The issue should be that government should speed up the process of taking them out in a larger number.
Do the police have a point, Mathapelo, when they say for them to go down there to do their job, it is simply unsafe because of the types of people who are prospecting illegally down there?
Look, to begin with, how this project ended up in the police's hands it's shocking. This is a DMRE issue where DMRE has got people who have got expertise to do the job. The police people are being real when they're saying they are unable to go down there. they've never been miners. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the experience. Expecting police to go down there, it's not making sense in a true sense. DMRE should be taking the lead in ensuring that these miners are rescued. It is their fault at the end of the day. They've allowed these abandoned mines to exist for a very long time. So they should be held accountable. They should take charge of what is happening right now. It all falls on them, not on the police.
Mathapelo, have you been down there? I mean, I'd just like to know, I'm interested in just what it is like when you're actually down a shaft with illegal workers, what you see, the types of people down there. We see women, children. Is it all men? What's it like?
So far, we haven't gone down where they are trapped. We've been on the surface. So far, those are emerging males. There has not been a woman yet. They are just males. There's no indication that there are women down there. It's for now, we're just seeing males. But I've been on site.
Duncan, just give us some context. This is clearly making news today. We're talking about hundreds. Mathapelo saying up to 4,000. Is there a comparison? Do we go back a few years and there was another big situation like this? I mean, this strikes me as this is the biggest problem with illegal miners in one place, trapped like this for a long time. Is this a precedent?
This is the largest number potentially of people who have been identified and tried to be removed from abandoned mine workings. There is, as far as I can see, no safe and efficient way to remove that number of people from underground workings that are so deep underground. You can see from the pictures there, the mining headgear has all been demolished, have been removed. You are left with essentially an empty hole in the ground in a mine that is around 1,800 meters deep and is connected up underground to a large number of other mines in the area. People could be over a wide area and located deep underground. But I think there are other sites in South Africa where there are similar numbers of people working underground, but the government and others simply don't know about this. There's really not very much knowledge about the informal mining happening in abandoned mines, and for good reason. A lot of the time this activity is illegal. Take, for instance, last year there was a tragic accident at an abandoned mine in Virginia in the Free State, in which I think almost 40 people were killed in methane gas, either an explosion or poisoning. It took a month before the South African authorities were aware of this.
Wow.
And they were alerted not by their own structures, as far as I'm aware, but by the government of Lesotho, because many of those killed underground were from Lesotho. There is simply an enormous lack of knowledge about the extent of the industry, the numbers involved, and just how many people there are underground in these old mines.
We've had a statement from the police spokesperson, Duncan, Athlenda Mothe, who says that the numbers are exaggerated, this idea of 4,000. She says the figure is estimated to between 350 and 400 miners, according to the police spokesperson, saying that they've deployed maximum resources to this case. I asked very short while ago Mathapelo her thoughts on where this is going, Duncan. Somebody has to blink first here, don't they? Because if the police are refusing to move without arresting the miners, the miners not going out and saying they're not eating, the risk is of potentially, if you listen to the volunteers, of death here.
Yes, that large numbers of people could die underground, or could be left to die underground, or perhaps in a best case scenario, find another way out onto the surface, away from the main shafts we're looking at. Simply because underground there are connections to other abandoned mines, and there are lots of old shafts in the area. This mine, I think the shaft, Margaret Shaft, was one of 6 old shafts at the mine. My guess is that not all of these shafts are plugged. Probably some of them you can still get up and down, though with great difficulty and danger. But yes, there is a real possibility that large numbers of people are going to die here.
Duncan, we'll stay in touch on this story as well. Duncan Money from Johannesburg, consultant historian and the author, a co-author of Born with a Copper Spoon. And also, Mathapelo Diale, great to talk to you. Want to keep in touch with you as well, because you're having conversations about what's going on down there. The Gauteng branch development leader for the mining affected communities united in Action Makua. Great to talk to you both this evening on France 24.
Thank you.
Thank you.